Good evening. Welcome to the Falls Township Board of Supervisors meeting, Monday, March 27th. We'll begin with the salute to the flag, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Boraski, can you call the roll, please?
Sure. Mr. Palmer?
Here.
Ms. Mullen?
Here.
Mr. Dents?
Here.
Mr. Bransky's here. Let the record show Mr. Galloway had a family commitment tonight.
All right, thank you. Before we get started, we have a presentation, or we're actually going to recognize several members of the Levittown Fire Company Number 1. We have proclamations that just, I'm sorry, but weren't ready tonight. We're going to recognize Martin Gallagher for 50 years of service. Rich is going to walk us through this.
Hello, everyone. Let me see how I turn this thing on.
You're on.
How about now? Okay. If I could call up Jim Bray and Don Cryer, the Chief and President of Levittown 1. This proclamation that unfortunately, as Supervisor DENCE said, isn't ready, but we'd like to present it to Marty Gallagher for 50 years of service to the Levittown Fire Company Number 1. Marty has served currently as a fire police captain. He's been trustee over the years and other house officers. Thank you. So at this time, if I could call up Marty and the rest of the fellows, get a picture. Okay. Oh, I was corrected. 52 years. If the other fellows want to come up from Levittown. Yeah, if you go up there, you can get.
Yeah. They'll see right over you, Rich. Don't worry. All right. Yeah.
You know, it's quite impressive. 52 years, Marty. I know, buddy. That's a long time to spend in a volunteer organization. Is your family coming up?
Hey, Marty. You don't look old enough to have served there for 52 years. Right out of high school?
Wow.
So 17, 18? 18. Wow. Who wants to do the honors? Marty, do they know how many calls?
I'm sorry?
Do they know how many calls? No. Oh. Thank you for coming. Congratulations.
Congratulations. All right, we're going to also recognize Gertrude Delano for 60 years.
Gertie Delano.
Delano for 60 years of service.
Gertie has 110 years in the Ladies Auxiliary, and she's only 49. I don't know how it's possible. She's a 60-year member, charter member of the Auxiliary, former president of the Auxiliary, and it's just pretty impressive that you think of 60 years in a volunteer service. Congratulations. Beth, you want to call up? You want to call up whoever else, your family? Yeah, you can do family first. Yeah. Get your other sister.
Try and get out of this.
He
Try and get out of this.
Yeah, are there other members of the auxiliary? This obviously got dropped somehow. I think she just honestly thought, you know, it was you guys, not knowing any better. You want to do
Stay there. We're gonna get the whole, guys, can you come back up for a second? Art, Levittown 1, come on back up. We're gonna do a full group.
All right, thank you, and then we'll get started. Item number 1, public comment. Any names for public comment?
Also, no, but we're just saying it.
All right, first on the list is Fred Warren.
I may be in error. I want to comment after one of the presentations.
Okay,
I want to make sure I was covered there. Sorry.
you got it. Ben Lindenbaum?
Yeah, just look at the sign sheet, my bad.
Okay,
Thanks for coming.
that was easy. Item number 2 is a zoning change, adopting ordinance amending Chapter 209, zoning district map of the Township of Falls, Section 209, by rezoning certain lands identified at Bucks County Tax Map Parcel 13-047-088 from Riverfront District 3 to HI Heavy Industrial. Mr. Takita?
Mr. Dance, while the applicant is getting set up, I'll just provide some introductory comments. This is an application to change the zoning for tax map parcel 13047-088 from RD3 Riverfront District 3 to HI represented by Mike McGinnis and Becky Carlin. Hearing this evening has been advertised in the Bucks County Courier Times, and the proof of advertising will be marked as Township Exhibit 1. Township Exhibit 2 is the copy of the proof of petition of this evening's hearing on the property in question. And Mr. McGinnis is here with several witnesses. Mr. McGinnis, I'll ask you to introduce your witnesses and summarize their testimony when you ask them. Their testimony would conform to your summary, and then open yourself and your witnesses up to any questions from the board and members of the public.
Thank you, Ms. Gallagher. Good evening, Mike McGinnis from Begley Carlin here on behalf of North Point. To swear everybody in, I think I have Jeremy Michael virtually as well. With me, I have Peyton Harrison, Fred Heekin, and Eric Clace with Gilmore & Associates. If they can introduce themselves to the board, and then I'd provide a summary of what we're here for this evening. Thank you.
You said you have two individuals that are remote.
I think I have one, Jeremy Michael from North
okay.
Point. Yep.
Is he on?
Hey guys, Jeremy Michael, North Point Development.
Peyton Harrison, North Point Development.
Fred Heekin, North Point Development.
Eric Clace, Gilmore & Associates.
All right. Thank you. Good evening. We are here with a rezoning request for the parcel. It is 13-47-88. We have on the aerial a depiction of the site, which we'll get into momentarily as part of the presentation. The subject parcel is presently zoned RD3, which is in the Riverfront District, Sector 3, and our proposal is to rezone this from RD3 to HI, which is heavy industrial. It's my understanding that there are only approximately, I believe, 5 parcels in the township which are zoned RD3. This is an 18.6 acre parcel. It's irregularly shaped, as you'll see. It's here, on the site plan. This matter is, I'll say at the outset, it is entirely discretionary. So we're not here to dispute that if the board is disinclined to change the zoning, we can't force the board to change the zoning. It's entirely within your power to allow this to remain RD3. What we're here to do, hopefully, is to convince the board that we believe it's in the best interest both of the township, the residents, as well as North Point, to have this rezoned to heavy industrial. As I think the supervisors are aware, most of North Point's parcels are located within the gates of the KTC. This property is kind of an odd duck. It sticks out from the rest because of its location and because of its zoning. North Point has been developing the KTC in multiple phases. So we've been through phase 1. We've had some one-off projects in between phase 1 and phase 2. We came in front of the board for phase 2, and we have phase 3, which is pending in front of the township presently. In plotting out phase 3 of the development, this situation emerged, which is Harsco is the tenant of North Point. North Point has a number of tenants still in the KTC, and in order to effectuate phase 3, as it's currently envisioned, Harsco is going to need to be relocated. Rather than coming through immediately after the acquisition of the site to have a rezoning request on North Point's behalf, we have attempted at all phases of this to be entirely transparent with the township. And what I mean with that is this is a North Point application. Even though it's a North Point application, the end user is envisioned as Harsco, as the intended occupant. Harsco runs a modestly sized operation where they utilize recyclable materials for sandblasting and abrasive. We have some renderings, and we're going to go through them this evening, which is going to depict Harsco's intended use on the site, but I'm going to state this and reiterate it in a bit. It's important to note at the outset that this is a rezoning petition. This is not a land development application on Harsco's behalf. That means that if Harsco does submit an application later, it's going to have to go through the normal process, and that means specifically Mr. Jones' office is going to have to review it. It's going to have to go to PA DEP. There's going to have to be NPDES permits that are approved. Any conditions that attach through the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors are going to attach once Harsco submits a land development application. So this is a first step to rezone the site, to really make the site able to be utilized in a meaningful way, but this would not be the last time that this site is before the board for comment, and later approvals will be necessary. The two issues to sort of orient the board regarding a rezoning petition first are, is this legal? Is this a spot zoning application, or is this being zoned in conformance with Falls Township's ordinance? If you look at the maps, and I have, and certainly can distribute it as part of our application, the substantial portion of the southern area and the southeast area of this site is already zoned heavy industrial. So you have a chunk that is RD3, you have some which is HIA, and the vast majority of the parcels immediately to the south and southeast are heavy industrial. Again, that doesn't mean that the township has to rezone this to HI, but as a legal threshold issue to make sure this is in keeping with surrounding uses and surrounding zoning districts, I would submit that it is clearly legally allowed to be rezoned to the HI district. So once you cross that threshold, the question then becomes, should the township rezone it, not whether legally they're allowed to rezone it. And we think the answer to that is yes, for a few reasons. First, and if you look at what we have as the key map aerial, which is in front of you, where I'm depicting and highlighting with the clicker, this is the site which is intended to be improved at a later date by Harsco. As you can see here, it is really surrounded by commercial and industrial uses. So it is in keeping with the subject area. If you look at the RD3 zoning district, the Riverfront district is broken into three sections. Sector 1 and Sector 2 are fairly voluminous in terms of what they allow. The permitted uses in Sector 3, A, open space, B, single-family detached dwelling in accordance with the provisions of 209-14 medium-density residential district, and C, family daycare home. That is what's allowed in the RD3 district. North Point is, I think, all right, thank you. I'm about to flip through some of them anyway. That's easier. All right, thank you. North Point is, I would submit, as a bit unique as a landowner in the township, in that we know, and North Point is going to be here for hopefully the next 2, 3, 4 decades. North Point is not going to be developing single-family detached dwellings at this property. I would also submit that North Point probably isn't going to have much success selling the property to commercial developers when the zoning is very restrictive. So I think as a threshold issue for the board's consideration, if the property is going to be meaningfully developed, it's going to need to be rezoned. And we have a tenant and a use that we think is a positive use at this location. We understand there are some concerns regarding Harsco's existing operation inside the gates of the KTC and whether this is something that is a use that we want to have migrated outside the gates. So to that, I'd like to share a few points. First of all, Harsco is going to, my understanding is, initially, whether we have it labeled as phase 1, as you can see, or phase 2, the initial phase of Harsco's development at this site is going to be fairly limited and modest in terms of the structures, which they are improving here. We did not want to state that, well, Harsco is only going to move forward with what you see on the screen in front of you, that there will never be any larger operations or exterior storage of material. but there is a chance that the sum and substance of this use basically is what is on the screen before you right now, which is certainly a no impact use in the township with this site, or at least no impact in a negative direction. I would reiterate that if and when the use were to expand to some of the outdoor storage of material, this is going to look markedly different than it does currently inside of the KTC. There's going to be berming, there's going to be buffering. It's going to have to be vetted again at the township and from an agency level in order to get this approved at this site. The reality here is this is not, I mean, it is a Harsco use, but the effect of this rezoning is not limited to the subject parcel. As I stated at the outset, North Point is seeking to relocate Harsco to facilitate their development inside of the gates of the KTC. Phase 3 is pending in front of the board, and my understanding, and Jeremy I think can affirm this, is failure to relocate Harsco is going to prevent approximately 1.6 million square feet of development, which is in front of the board presently. If we can't relocate Harsco, or even if we have to move Harsco to a different location because this is denied, we either are forced to build around their current operations due to their lease rights, which really isn't feasible or desirable, or we have to attempt to move them to somewhere else inside the KTC, which decreases the yield in the park in that location, which is going to cause a substantial delay in future development. And again, Jeremy can talk about the time that's being forecasted in terms of that delay. But I think if you look at this in substance, piece by piece, is it legal? Yes. Is the zoning currently permissive in any reasonable way here? No, it's not. Is Harsco's operation going to be markedly different than what it is currently inside of the KTC? The answer is going to be yes, and you're going to have a chance to, again, review, provide comments, conditions, etc. Is it in keeping with the surrounding parcels in this area? Yes. And will it facilitate an expeditious and successful development for North Point moving forward with the envisioned Phase 3 that's currently pending in front of the township? And again, I would submit the answer to that is yes. So we think all of those reasons are really persuasive for the board's consideration this night in terms of rezoning this parcel. I don't know if Fred or Jeremy is going to walk through briefly the pictures that we've submitted, and then I know Jeremy wants to address the board regarding North Point's vision and the importance of this project in his eyes. So we appreciate your consideration.
How's it going? Fred Heekin. So Mike did a pretty good job already of explaining what was going on here. I don't know that I need to spend too much time running in here or running through here, but like he said, Phase 1 is how it's currently envisioned. Harsco is on the fence of whether or not they're going to build this out completely in the future, but what you're looking at in Phase 2 here is 3-4 years down the line, if so. And the trees and buffering is reflective of that in our program. It'll grow through. That's really all I have to add from what Mike already presented. So I don't know if Jeremy has anything or not.
Yeah, thanks, Fred. To address the board on the future development plans, we had some conversations with some of the board members previously about this. We had looked at alternate sites in and around the park, trying to maintain, their operation, like inside the gates at Keystone. And because of the size and layout of the facility, we weren't able to find another location for them without having a substantial impact on the yield, as Mike alluded to earlier. So this option allowed us to kind of repurpose this site. Obviously, again, they'll have to go through land development approvals as well as Pennsylvania DEP's permitting process in terms of their activities on site there. But what it really does is free up the phase 3 area that impacts buildings 7 and 9, which together make up about 1.6 million square feet. Harsco's current lease runs through May of 2028. So, waiting out the term is, a plausible option as well. But, we all worked so hard together to get the Keystone Opportunity Zone re-implemented back there, and losing a few years of timing on the development, along with the capital improvement, the jobs, the tax base, we think would be a real detriment. So, hopefully this is viewed favorably, but we would, certainly appreciate any kind of questions or comments you guys have, and happy to address.
All right, thank you. We'll start with board members. Mr. BORASKI? Whoever.
Anybody.
I have a couple and then maybe come back around again. If Harsco was to move into that property, how long would it take?
What?
Microphone.
Oh, your microphone's off.
If Harsco was to move, how long would it take?
I'm sorry, I'm having a tough time hearing you guys if that's questions directed to me.
Who's talking?
Jeremy Michael.
Can we bring Jeremy up on the screen, please?
I was just,
So we kind of had laid out for them previously. We're in the midst of design. We think that the NPDS permitting process will take roughly 5 months, from today to complete. And their operation is pretty modular in terms of the components they're looking at months, from today until when we would be able to relocate them on the site and be fully operational again.
so, not to cut you off, but 6 months of permitting at least? You think something like that? From approval time?
They're going to have to submit a full land development plan.
Correct. Yeah, we think there 6 months of permitting at DP as well as land development at the township.
Okay,
Land development, construction, so what kind of time frame?
year and a half.
Yeah, I'd say probably. I mean, the improvements are, if you look at the structural improvements, they're actually pretty small. It was one of the conversations, I think, at the Planning Commission, where I believe there was a question about truck traffic, and I think the answer was there's 3 trucks that Harsco has. I think they had 7 employees. That's my recollection of the number. And as Jeremy said, if you look at the structures, they're pretty limited, modular in nature. So I think the construction of the improvements, probably the paving is the long lead item there on the site design, but permitting through outside agencies falls, and then having them operational at the site, I don't know if it'd be a year and a half. I'd probably say somewhere between Jeremy's estimate, a year and a half, maybe a year. And I don't represent Harsco, but I know what has been discussed and what we've tried to depict. We've labeled it as phase 1. I don't know if it will be officially submitted as phases, but I'm going to assume the more objectionable or concerning portion of Harsco's operation is not what is intended to be there at the beginning of their relocation. So what I have in front of you right now on the screen really is what we're talking about as phase 1. And then I would defer to the township and Harsco in terms of what the approval process would be to expanding that to some of the larger structure there and the exterior storage of materials. But they would have to get outside agency approval for all
So
of that.
Harsco is here, right?
Harsco is, excuse me?
Somebody here tonight?
No,
No.
we're not approving anything for Harsco.
I understand it, but our decisions, I feel like our decisions are based on, only because you're presenting it like that our decision tonight to rezone is based on whether Harsco is going to go there or not.
So can I respond to that?
Yeah.
And I could be wrong about this, but I think that if North Point submitted an application a year and a half ago, where they said, we bought the site, this is not usable, nobody is building single-family detached dwellings at this location, we don't know what we're going to do with this later, but we need to do something, I have a feeling that might have been looked at favorably by the board. I could be wrong about that. This is a North Point application. It is possible that this gets rezoned and Harsco never submits anything, and now it's zoned permanently HI. That's a double-edged sword. But we're here because we value, myself, Eric, the consultants, and North Point, transparency with the township. We didn't want to come in front of the board 6 months ago and say, please rezone this property for North Point, and then all of a sudden Harsco shows up 9 months from now and people are upset at us. So we've tried to walk a very careful line in saying this is a North Point application, North Point owns the property, but Harsco is very likely who is going to be here at the end of the day. I've tried to balance that with the fact that we're not asking you to approve a land development plan. That is not what's in front of you this evening. So Harsco could never come here and it's going to be HI. If Harsco does come here, which is everyone's intention, they're going to have to go through this entire process, and when they're in front of the supervisors 6 months from now, if the use is not, if the site plan or there's components of it are not acceptable, then they very well may be denied by the supervisors at that time, and then Harsco isn't going to be here.
And Mike, I appreciate the transparency. I just don't know personally if it would have mattered whether you did it 9 months ago or it's going on today. You know what I mean? Like, my questions, I would feel more comfortable, I think, rezoning the area knowing what was going in and knowing a little bit about the business that was going in. I mean, that's just, I don't know if, for me, that's, like, all my questions I was writing while you were talking, only because we started off talking about Harsco, were based on the business. And other than asking you what other, you're saying keeping it with the current situation down there, and I don't know what else is down there that compares to what's on the screen right here.
Jeremy?
Sure, I'm happy to jump in there and try to answer any questions related to their use. They have been a tenant of ours since we acquired the site about 2.5 years ago. So we're, pretty familiar with the operation. I don't want to speak totally on their behalf, but I think we have a pretty good understanding of their operation. So I'm happy to try to answer any of those questions you might have.
So as a threshold issue, Jeremy, I think to go to Mr. Boraski's point, can you provide a little bit more color about what they would actually do here based on
I'm okay with Harsco not being here. We can, that's fine. I'd rather really wanted to hear it from the owners of Harsco. But again, it's kind of odd because it feels like we're in a land development application, but we're not. So it's just kind of hard for me to understand because I really wanted to understand the business that was would be going in on Pennsylvania Avenue and not, not really being able to talk about Harsco or treating it like a land development, but it feels like it to me.
I understand. And that's tricky too, because if we say this is everything, if we use a hypothetical that's different, and let's say Harsco was the thing that was convincing the board to approve this, and we brought Harsco to the meeting and said, look how great Harsco is, please rezone this for Harsco, and then something fell apart between North Point and Harsco and they never came here, that's the other end of it, right? Where the board goes, well, wait a second, we just rezoned this because of these people who are here, and the reality is, we're not beholden to submit anything that has Harsco on it. In perpetuity, this will forever be a heavy industrial property. So, but I understand your point. Your point's well taken.
And I feel like, we keep referring to Pennsylvania Avenue, and I don't know anything else that's in the heavy industrial. I know what's allowed in heavy industrial, but I don't see heavy industrial when I drive down Pennsylvania Ave. I know we see storage lots and tow yards and commercial property, but I don't look at that as heavy industrial. So, when we refer to like keeping up with the current situation along there, and I don't see that happening along Pennsylvania Ave. Maybe it's heavy industrial. I just, I don't look at it as being heavy industrial.
I think that this whole strip here is HI. My understanding is, but you're saying the nature of the use is a little different, even if there's pieces that are zoned that way.
Yeah, there's no other process in company. Like, to me that, I don't know, I see more commercial regardless of what it says it's zoned as. But that's all I had, Mike, because I was really interested in the company because it's being presented that way to me as it's a tricky situation because I feel like it's land development and it's not, it's rezoning. So I'm good.
Ms. Mullen?
Hi, thank you. I was wondering if you could elaborate on when you opened, you indicated that a situation developed which caused the need for the moving of Arsco?
I think there was a finalizing of which phase was, it's been fluid to some degree, what North Point's developing in the KTC and when. So if phase 3, if what we're labeling as phase 3 ended up being a 2027 development plan, then the need to relocate Harsco would not be nearly as pressing, obviously.
And Mike,
Yeah,
I would add that the current term of their lease when we acquired the site expired in 2023, and they had a fixed 5-year option or renewal in their lease that they elected to proceed with. So that's what extended their term through 2028. So that's kind of the timing component of it that had changed a little bit as well.
Did North Point know about that option?
Yeah, we were aware that that was a possibility that they would extend.
Okay. And then you had said earlier that phase 3 is 1.6 million square feet.
So phase 3 in its totality is 4 buildings, just over 3 million square feet. Harsco's current layout, like if you were to overlay the site plan with Harsco, it impacts building 7 and 9, which are on the north end of phase 3. So it transposes 2 of those buildings.
So do you know the entire square footage of the area inside the gated lot?
In terms of what we have master plan, like new construction or the total area?
Just area, developable area.
Not off the top of my head. I would guess that the balance of the developable area is probably still a couple hundred acres.
Okay, and this is, I think you said 18.6 acres is Harsco?
Correct.
Okay. And then I think Mr. McGinnis made a compelling argument for why this is in North Point's best interest. Could be argued, made a decent argument for why it's in the township's best interest, but why is this in the residents' best interest in North Point's view?
I think, you can go ahead, Jeremy, then I'll add.
Sorry, yeah, I was just going to say, we feel like the impact to the residents is pretty negligible. Obviously, as Mike had pointed out with the surrounding areas and uses, it's not a very residential area. We have been working with Morrisville, and I don't know if it's made its rounds in terms of like the good news, but the traffic on Pennsylvania Avenue has been a concern since we acquired the site, and we had just gone through an effort with Google to try to remap. We got them to change their algorithm to reroute traffic to the site away from Pennsylvania Avenue. So it's redirecting traffic now to take 13 to Tyburn. So, we're certainly cognizant of what's happening up the street in Morrisville and trying to be good neighbors there. Ideally, Harsco, and one of the things that you'll see on the land development plan, if and when it does come through, is the truck turn out of the site plan, and maybe we could flip back to that, but we had intentionally designated that as like a left turn only out of the site to direct the truck traffic to Tyburn Avenue. So that's really, we don't foresee a major impact to the residents of Falls or Morrisville. We think it's kind of keeping in, it is extended outside of the front gate, but it really is part of Keystone Trade Center still.
My argument, if I could, on that is not to conflate different projects, but we look into the future, and part of the argument with the KOZ was, there's a benefit that the township receives with a couple different properties and waste management and North Point, and they actually coincide pretty well because of the burn off on Waste End and North Point coming online with the KOZ's expiration. My argument from a writ large township-wide standpoint is both from jobs and from revenue. This is North Point's development. I think is going to be critical in revitalizing and being a needed shot in the arm to Falls and Lower Bucks on the whole. And I think they've, North Point, Falls has been great partners, and North Point, I think, to this day has upheld their end of the bargain, and being able to facilitate another 2 buildings and I don't know how many, 1,000, 2,000 employees to come in, the revenues that are generated about that development, especially once the KOZ burns off. I do think there's a pretty large downstream effect that's going to be positive for the township and the residents as a whole. I think certainly you could go either direction on this site. I mean, my analysis is it's a site that's never going to be developed unless it's developed in line with something that is certainly not RD3, and I have no strong pushback if anyone up there said, any of the board members said, you know what, we could take or leave developing this particular parcel in this manner. I'm not going to stand here and say that's a crazy position. My argument, and I made it at the Planning Commission, is when you weigh, okay, even if we're negligible in terms of the impact on this site, and you weigh that with the benefit that's derived and received from relocating them and the effect that that has with North Point's development, that's where I believe the scales tip in favor of the township and rezoning it. So you kind of have to look at them locked. I agree that if you just looked at this site by itself, you could go either way with it, but if you look at it in tandem, I think it's a positive, including the residents of the township from a tax and job standpoint.
Thank you.
Is that all?
That's all I have.
Mr. Palmer?
Some of your renderings, I didn't see how close the river was. You kind of showed the property to the front, but the river wasn't really in any of your pictures, and I believe it's just right on the other side of those trees. The creek, yeah.
Is that on? Yeah, I mean, this isn't if you want to see it, this isn't the best picture, but the rear of the site backs on the creek, and then the creek is into the river, correct?
Okay.
That's right.
And some of us had the opportunity to go down and check out the use of the facilities back in KTC, and it almost looks like a black site when you look at it from Google images from the sky. It's completely blacked out. How do you assure us that won't happen to that site there? Their present use back in the mill, yeah. Because this is, like some of the members said up here, houses are only, if you go to the left, not even a quarter mile down the road, there's houses. You're only showing across the street and you're talking about in North Point, but when you go to the left, you're dealing with residential houses. And those big piles.
You're saying they're right down here a little bit,
Yeah,
right?
to the left, yeah. There's tenants that live along there.
Right.
Or landowners, I don't know what they are, but they do live there. Do you have any Google imaging of the site presently right now? Are you able to pull that up? Because I seen a copy of it and it was black from the sky.
I don't have a picture of a Google image of Harsco's present site on this slide, no.
Sorry, Mike, I was just going to add the black that you see is the material that they process. I actually, Misty from Harsco, Misty Stifler, runs the operation there. I think she just dialed in, so she might be able to answer some of those questions more directly if we're able to allow her into the meeting. And sorry if I could just jump in on the site plan portion of that as well. There's a minimum 100-foot buffer setback from the creek that we have to maintain, and I think in almost all portions of the site we're actually exceeding 200 feet setback from the wetland buffer, which is even further to the property line. So I think we're obviously working through that with our site plan approvals with Fish and Boat as well as PADEP, but we feel like maintaining an additional buffer to the river is important, and so we're almost double what the required setback is.
Are you, as far as the recommendation from the Planning Commission, are you aware of that, or?
Yes, I was there.
Yes.
For it, yeah.
Okay. That's all I have, thank you.
Do we know when we changed the zoning to RD3?
It would be several years back. Let me see if I can.
You were with us though, right? I believe.
I don't specifically recall that, but
Yeah.
I'll check.
Is RD, now, Mr. McGinnis said there's several different RD zoning down there.
There's 3 RD sectors, sectors 1, 2, and 3. This property is in the 3rd sector, which does have the permitted uses that Mr. McGinnis read out
Which
earlier.
is very limited. All right, so everybody's covered most of my questions. Is there any questions, Mr. Takita, or comments? Mr. Jones?
I would just add that I believe the RD3 has been in existence well over 16 years.
No, I remember changing it to RD down there when I've been on the board. I don't remember the exact time we did that, though. That's fine. Is there any public comment needed? I see 1, 2 hands. Go ahead. If you state your name, please.
Yeah, I'm Fred Warren. I'm the owner of 1610 South Pennsylvania Avenue, 092, and I'm zone riverfront, and I'm one of the residentials that you won't see on these pictures, okay? It's been just quickly in a way of background, okay? My property is about 100 square foot front. It's 100 square foot frontage. Goes back about 300 square foot, irregular, a little less than an acre, and it's been in family since 35. I inherited the property in 2005 when my father passed away, and I can remember here, and again, this is what it was. You go down Pennsylvania Avenue. I'm a lot older than everybody in this room, but it was farmlands and open fields and what have you. But it is what it is. I can understand what's going on, as far as commercial properties and storage facilities and that type of thing. I could answer a couple of your questions, actually. It became pretty good for the most recent, when it became zoned from riverfront mine was light industrial to riverfront. That was December 6th of 2005, if I got the right one. There could have been changes to this, but that's when it was. And again, good questions from the board as far as is there any other, as far as the pictures are concerned. You look at this picture, it doesn't show, let me give my direction, north of North Pennsylvania Avenue. That's if you go a couple hundred feet this way, you're going to see my property, you're going to see some homes, okay, some houses. And it was a good question as far as how close you are to the river. Well, I know the area pretty well. I hunted there, okay, I'll be honest. And maybe I trespassed a little bit, but anyway, I hunted there. And you got the land's pretty flat. And then it goes right down to Biles Creek, okay? And it is wetlands. It is wetlands. And I know I was down in the woods taking a walk, and I ran into their surveyors and somebody from North Point. They said they were going to put a stone crushing company in. So that's when my thing I'm going to comment as far as a stone crushing company. But I'm jumping ahead a little bit. That's what you have. So across the street that used to be fields, but it is what it is. And down this way there is a number of residential properties. Right now, and you alluded to it, you have an unbelievable amount of truck traffic. You got noise, you got dirt and dust, and you put a stone crushing company. And I'm using this terminology; it's not mine. It's what somebody came walking through the woods with a surveyor says that's what they're going to put in. So I'm not going to refer to it as Harsco or anything else. It's a stone crushing company's coming in, or what they eventually want to put in. And with that, you got that 1 million square foot warehouse in back of me, okay? And we're not here to discuss that. So the truck traffic and noise and everything is just unbelievable. And this is just going to add to it. I certainly wouldn't want to live, I don't think any of you would want to live across the street. They're going to widen Pennsylvania Avenue, 4 lanes. It's going to be just unbelievable. And I don't know what's in the plans as far as that's concerned. So I'm strongly opposed to increased truck traffic. You got the dirt, noise, and the back of the property is a wetlands, and it's environmentally sensitive. I used to work for EPA. It's neither here nor there. I was not in the but I know when they went through and they took core. Somebody was telling me the dirt, water came right up. So you don't have much, you got a frontage, you go back, and it goes right down into a creek area. And then you got Biles Island across the creek. So that's what you have. I know I'm just a little guy, but I just want to get my point across. I know back in 2007, I went through my files. I put a little you'll see a little storage thing, 14 foot by 30 foot to store some of my stuff there. And I don't know what I went through on that. And again, things at times, I had to send letters to everybody within a mile and all that kind of stuff. And now, and get approval inspections, but that's neither here nor there. But I went through a lot of hoops just to put that in there. But it's just sits in my crawl a little bit. That's pretty much it. But I just can't see how you can go from river. And let me back you up a little bit. When they went to Riverfront, I was against it because my property was zoned light industrial. And I think that's what it should be, light industrial, okay? And I was against it because, of course, it decreased the value. I was against Riverfront. And you look at Riverfront, okay? I'm just going to read, I'm going to close by reading what's in this ordinance. What is Riverfront? And here I am with a little property, and here's the permitted uses of Riverfront. A medical office building, a regular office building, restaurants, incidental outdoor dining areas. See, they think of this Riverfront, it's all the way from Allentown all the way down the river. And there are some nice places. We know New Hope and north of New Hope where it would apply. It should be Riverfront because they can develop it and make it nice. Something entertainment, I don't know, you can put a financial establishment. You can put a hotel on my property, but mine's only 1 acre. But you can put a hotel down there with Riverfront. Health club, marina, and list just goes on and on. And people back then, the supervisors back then, they were really dedicated. I opposed it, but it is what it is, okay? But I just cannot see heavy industrial. The truck traffic on Pennsylvania Avenue right now is just unbelievable. You come off the Route 1 bypass, go through Marsville. First of all, they're not supposed to go through Marsville, and the trucks do. They're just backed up at that light at Philadelphia Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue. Just unbelievable. This is just going to cause more, and the dirt right now is unbelievable, and you're going to have more of it. So that's my 2 cents worth. If you have any questions of me, go ahead.
No, thank you though. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Collins, back there, you wanted to speak?
She had her hand up too. You can go.
Tony Batiste, I'm a Fairless Hills resident. RD3 on this map that I have from Falls Township off the website, and it's very teeny tiny, and I can't totally read it, but it's adjacent on one small side to the heavy industrial, although there's one section to the left that I'm not sure what that is, because I can't read the little print. Anyhow, where the RD3 is, right above it is RD1, and right above that is RD2. So it's not like it's totally surrounded by heavy industrial. And the problem is there are a lot of other heavy industrial areas that are already zoned heavy industrial. And they're mostly at the southern end of the township. And I don't know if it's all within North Point or not. It could be something else. But there are plenty of other places. And heavy industrial, arguably, does not usually mean anything environmentally pleasant for residents of the township. If we go out there and you try to upgrade a heavy industrial area to something nice, like residential, I think you're going to have a lot of problems doing that, because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of environmental issues of things that we don't know what's in the ground. You already don't know half of what's in our air. And the problem also is Biles Creek is right there, and the river's right on the other side. That's where we get our drinking water. Not only us, Bristol does, Ben Salem does, Philadelphia does, all those towns that are south of us, and New Jersey does. So do we want to really be bad neighbors and put heavy industrial right next to the creek and the river? There's other places that are more suitable. So why potentially damage the non-heavy industrial areas? Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Tony.
Yes.
Hello, Colin Henderson. I'm also on the Planning Commission. So this is simple to me as far as they created their own hardship. So North Point bought over 2,000 acres worth of property, around 2,000 acres. So they have an 18-acre property on their current spot that they have a problem with because it conflicts with Phase 3. They also have this other 18-acre property that they can't use because it's to what their development is, it's useless to them. So they want us to solve their problem for them. But I don't understand how you can buy over 2,000 plus acres and there's an 18-acre property you can't put somewhere else in there. No, but you want to put, I have no problem with what Harsco does, but there's also a place for what they do. They pulverize coal and copper, shale. They pulverize it into dust to be recycled. And that's a fine business, but that business isn't supposed to be on the front of Pennsylvania Avenue. That should be in the middle of an industrial park where it currently is. Or it could be moved in that same industrial park to a spot where it doesn't conflict with them. So, that was basically sums it up as far as my issue on it, is that they've created their own hardship and they want you guys, the supervisors, to solve the problem for them when they really just need to solve the problem themselves. And I do agree that the Riverfront 3 is extremely restrictive, but if you make it a 1 or a 2, or, I mean, eventually when you get 10,000 employees down there, right, that they're going to have supposedly, that Riverfront 1 and 2 allow restaurants, convenience stores, all kinds of things that would love to have a property adjacent to 10,000 people. So I'm just saying that this is also going to be out front. This isn't going to be in the middle of the industrial park. This is going to be out front of it. So why would they want to put this business in front of their booming industry? As I don't understand that fact either. So that concludes what I had to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Colin.
Thank you. Any other hands for public comment? Any professionals have anything else to add, or board members? Is there a motion to approve or deny?
Mr. Dance, was somebody else going?
No.
Go ahead.
I actually did a whole board. I'm in a kind of a situation right now where it was not a meeting for me. It feels like, again, it feels like land development, but it's not. It's just rezoning of a piece of property. I'm not in a position where I feel like I am ready to approve anything. However, if possible, I'd like to make a motion that we table the item.
Motion made to table. Is there a second? All right. Is there a motion to approve or deny?
Motion to deny.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Boraski?
You want me to pull the board?
Yes, please.
So there's a motion made to deny. And a second it?
Yeah.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Mullen?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
No.
I don't know what to do.
You have to vote yes or no. The motion tabled, and obviously the second is the motion to confirm the board is a motion to deny the application. which
And
would
what
be
does it do if we tie?
If it's a 2-2 vote, the status quo is maintained, and therefore the application is denied.
It's denied?
Correct.
It's denied no matter what you do, Mr. Boraski. So if that makes you feel better.
What's that?
It's denied no matter what you do, if that makes you feel better.
Yeah.
But you do have to
You
vote.
still, yeah. Sorry.
My vote's yes then.
Thanks.
Yep. We're going to take a quick break before we go to item number 3. Is that all right? Or 2? Been here over an hour.
pass both of them anyway, just get them done approval.
Yeah, okay, welcome back to our meeting. We're going to skip to item number 4, certificate of appropriateness for 16 Yardley Avenue. We're going to raise the roof on an existing garage. Are there any questions from board members or comments?
No questions.
No questions.
All right, this was unanimously approved by the Architectural Review Board. Mr. Takita or Mr. Jones? Nothing? Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 5, certificate of appropriateness, 64 Old Locust Avenue, install 12 by 20 by 16 shed. Any questions or comments from board members? This was also approved.
No questions.
No questions.
No.
Mr. Takita or Mr. Jones? There's no public comment, I assume. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. That takes us back to item number 2.
4.
Oh, I'm sorry. Item number 3, PENNSBURY School District preliminary and final land development.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Jamie Lynch. I'm with Dewey Engineering. I'm the project manager for the school district. Tonight, we're here to discuss the final land development approval for the PENNSBURY Stadium project. And I'm lucky to have an entourage with me tonight that includes Mr. Chip Taylor, who's a board member of the school board, Mr. Thomas Smith, who's the school superintendent, Mr. George Steele, who's the director of facilities, last but not least, Mr. Justin Massey, who is the civil engineer for the project. And as I mentioned, we're here to ask you to consider conditional final approval of the land development plan. So what I'd like to do is just take you through a short presentation of the plan for the stadium project at the PENNSBURY School District High School site. This is a multi-phase project which started last year with the replacement of existing stadium bleachers. And now we're moving into the next phase, which includes the replacement of the track, the conversion of the natural turf football field to synthetic turf, and then ultimately moving ahead in a future phase with further development of the site for concessions and restroom buildings. The second page of the land development plan really shows what is envisioned for the future. In addition to the stadium work, there's potential plans for a second synthetic field to the east of the existing stadium, and ultimately the addition of new restrooms, concessions buildings, team rooms at the site. That would be in a future phase, but we've submitted it all for an NPDES permit that we've received from the Conservation District for the entire land development plan. Just another image that identifies the stormwater that's been designed for the project and approved as part of the NPDES project. What we're prepared to do this summer is to start only on the replacement of the track and the conversion of the football field to synthetic turf. That is it, inside the existing bleachers that were replaced last summer. There's some associated work that is involved with fencing and paving and sidewalks, which is shown here in the image before you. And in all its glorious color, with school colors, that's what the ultimate build out of the stadium would look like for Falcon Field. One added accessory is that the existing stadium lights will be replaced with new LED fixtures on the existing poles. We've done all of the calculations for lighting levels, which are shown here and will be provided to the township engineer for consideration. The nicest component here is that we've reduced the light trespass off of our site to 0. And so any of that light that is moving across the site and also into the residential areas now will be reduced to 0 thanks to the new LED technology that will be installed for the field. Just a couple of highlights on our land development process. The NPDES permit, as I mentioned, is in hand. Our land development plan was submitted to Falls Township and conditionally approved at the February 28th Planning Commission, and that brings us to this evening. We still have a code review to complete for the project, and then for the future work, we have a sewer allocation that we need to deal with Falls Authority, and ultimately a sewer approval from DEP for the site. And so that's really our next phase of work after the work this summer goes in, and we'll be back to the township for a waiver as far as the number of restrooms that are installed at this facility based on the capacity of the stadium. Just wanted to make one note on sewer because it has been a topic of concern for us. And just for your information, it should be known that the records for the sewer allocation for the entirety of the high school site were lost in an unfortunate event in the past. And so we're working with TOFA to reestablish sewer allocation for the site. We had desired to replace the existing portable toilet facilities that are used for game day events only with restrooms, and that has been designed into our future plan. But we will work with PADEP and TOFA to determine what the flows need to be calculated for that new restroom complex. Really, we have a complex determination here because Village Park, as you may know, has been closed to students and it does not intend to reopen in the future. And there's also plans to do work on the high school site in the future. So we're looking at that from a master planning comprehensive standpoint. So the sewer planning modules would not be completed prior to construction of those building projects that are proposed. So we're about to start that process and go through it, and that would result in phase 3, which hopefully would be the building project. And as I mentioned, the stadium buildings are not part of the construction. They're not planned for this summer. Students would still use the natatorium restrooms as they do now. The school district would still provide portable toilets for the big game day and events at the field as they do now. It would really be status quo. As far as approvals go, first, our big one was NPDS approval, which we received at the beginning of the month. Also, the Conservation District knows that we are only contemplating the field and track to be done this summer, and we'll plan for the rest of the development in subsequent years. We've got the recent Jones Engineering comment letter of March 14th. All of the items therein are will comply. We'll be putting together a final set of documents for approval and ultimately recording based on those comments and the letters prior to that back in February, which were also will comply. We've also gotten a letter from the Office of the Fire Marshal. Those are also will comply responses. Primarily it relates to the design of the buildings that would be in the future and how they're addressed for fire suppression. And so we'll address that comment when the time comes to put the buildings in. Also gotten a traffic letter from Remington Vernick. That is also a will comply. We're not adding any additional traffic to the stadium. The parking lots will remain the same. There's no new parking as a part of the project. And we've gotten our approval letter from Bucks County Planning Commission as well. These are also will comply editorial edits to our drawings. That's where we are. And with that short presentation, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, let's start with board members. Mr. Boraski.
Sure. My first thing is a comment. I've been on the board 8 years now, and that's probably the best presentation I've seen. Everything's, right there, notes, and all the review letters. It was nice for us to, at least nice for me to be able to just follow along and read, and sometimes we're just fumbling through our paper, so good job on that. But
thank you.
My first question was about the lighting, so I was happy to see you guys took care of that and that LED lights going on. I've been a part of a couple of them projects now, and I know PENNSBURY will be satisfied with the LED upgrade, and as a resident, same. As for the portable restrooms, hand washing stations, I just have a little concern about it, most of them being night games, and I would just be concerned that they're going to be in the dark. So I just wanted to touch on that, like for safety reasons and security reasons. Is there something you guys can do just to make sure there's some lighting where that is?
It's a great question. What I failed to let you know is that as a part of the lighting package for the stadium, there's also bleacher lighting that is included in those lights, and there's also practice field lighting that shines behind the bleachers. And so that area in front of the stadium where you usually see the porta-johns, that'll have some additional lighting than what it's had before.
All right, great. Other than that, it looks great. I'm excited for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Mullen?
No questions. I think you did a great job, and I appreciate School Board Member Taylor and Dr. Smith for being in attendance tonight as well.
Thank you. The timing's right based on the length of the first presentation for them to make it.
Mr. Palmer?
The only thing I have is, are they going to be playing at the stadium this year?
The answer is yes. We have a contract for construction, and it's been considered by the board and awarded. We expect to break ground in April.
Excellent. No other comments?
Mr. Takita or Mr. Jones? Ms.
No
Gallagher?
comments.
Ms. Gallagher? I have none. Is there any public comment needed? I see one hand.
Tony Batiste again, and it all looks really nice, with the exception of the artificial turf. And I don't know if you've read the last week, I think it was, the Philadelphia Inquirer did a whole article on the artificial fields, and their guys were dying of brain cancer. And just this past week, there was an article in the conservation voters in Bucks County, and it regards a turf recycler who's moving into Pennsylvania, and he's getting hit with all kinds of environmental violations because handling the turf from fields when they need to be replaced is problematical because it's so loaded with chemicals. And what they're finding is, especially in the summer with the heat, that heat is blasting up through those artificial turf fields, and the chemicals are being inhaled by the people who are using the fields. So I'm just thinking it might be prudent to think about whether we really need artificial fields, which I know it would be nice to have, because I thought about putting it in my lawn, so I wouldn't have to do the lawn. But in finding out that thing with the release of the chemicals and how hot some of that artificial turf gets, that maybe it's not a good idea.
Thank you. Is there a motion? This is a resolution, right? 16?
Resolution 2023-13.
13.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you.
On behalf of the school district, we thank you very much for all of your cooperation on the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6, consider contract between Falls Township and Court Business Services Corporation for rental of furniture for temporary offices.
Board is being asked to consider contracts between Falls Township and Court Business Services, 14-month lease at $6,682.79 per month, for a total of $94,277.19. In the event that construction, this is for office furniture in our temporary location over at the Social Security building down the street. In the event the construction extends beyond 14 months, we would then revert to a month-to-month lease.
All right, any comments or questions from board members? Mr. Boraski?
No questions.
Mrs. Mullen?
No questions.
Palmer?
No question.
All right, is there any public comment needed? All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. Item number 7, consider resolution approving application to Pennsylvania Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program for Snipes Farm and Education Center. We're just agreeing to support what they're doing over there for their grant, is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Yeah, we're not, there's no liability on our end or anything like that. This is just to support them with the grant.
That's
And this
correct.
is also a resolution,
Yes.
number 2023-14. Is there any questions or comments? Mr. Boraski?
There's none of the grant funding runs through the township?
No.
That's correct. The township is serving as the grant sponsor, but the actual grant funds will go directly to the applicant.
Okay.
Ms. Mullen?
No questions.
Mr. Palmer?
No question.
I have none. Is there any public comment? None. Is there a motion?
So be it.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item number 8. This is silly too. Consider resolution establishing, recognizing April 2023 as Pennsylvania Safe Digging Month. Any questions? This is a resolution too. Number 15. Any comments or questions from board members about getting on board with the Safe Digging Month? Mr.
I
Boraski?
got nothing. Call before you dig.
Call before you dig. Ms. Mullen?
Call before you dig.
Mr. Palmer?
Call before you dig.
Any public comment needed? All right. Is there a motion to approve resolution number 2023?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Number 9 is a scratch. We're not going to be addressing that tonight. Number 10, agreement between Millennium Strategies and Falls Township. Mr. Takita?
The board is being asked to consider a proposal for grant consulting services with Millennium Strategies. Over the time that they've been here, they've helped secure $937,110 in grant funding. This current proposal is the same as last year's. They will propose 4 different service packages. One is to create a strategic plan. Proposed service number 2 is to research available grant opportunities. Proposed service number 3 is project-based grant writing. Proposed service number 4 is monthly reporting. For services 1, 2, and 4, the monthly retainer fee is $1,500 per month for an amount not to exceed $18,000. For proposed service number 3, it will be services based on an hourly rate of $130 per hour.
Questions or comments from board members? Mr. Boraski?
No.
No questions.
No questions.
Palmer? Is there any public comment needed? It's pretty good. We've gotten almost $1 million in grant money that they've helped us secure.
Absolutely.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 11, consider adopting ordinance authorizing execution of a cable franchise agreement between the Township and Verizon. Ordinance 2023-2. Ms. Gallagher.
Thank you, Mr. Dents. This ordinance has been advertised as required by law. As we discussed last month, the Cohen Law Group has been representing the Bucks County Consortium in its negotiations with Verizon. It's been some lengthy negotiations, but they have been able to procure an agreement which they believe is in the township's best interest, and extracted some agreements from Verizon that Verizon was initially not willing to give to the township. Preserves a lot of the rights the township had, but there are some changes that are set forth in the executive summary that the Cohen Law Group has provided. Happy to answer any specific questions. But
Any questions from board members?
No thanks.
No questions.
Mr. Palmer?
No question.
I have none. Is there any public comment needed? No hands. This is ordinance 2023-2. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 13, or 12, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Consider bids for sale of township surplus vehicles. We're going to reject all these bids. Is that correct, Mr.
Correct.
Takita?
And we will repost them on municipal.
Yeah, there were errors in the posting. I'll make a motion to reject this.
Sorry, I'm sorry, what did you say? Why
There was errors made when they listed them for sale with the
Kind of
bid
errors.
threshold.
Okay.
What kind of errors?
The vehicles were put up for bid before we received the appraisals. Now that we've received the appraisals, we're gonna repost.
So are all the bids too low?
Correct.
Okay.
So how do we think that would, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no.
How do we think that would change the outcome of the auction?
Because when they listed them, the starting bid too low. The starting bid should have been whatever the,
right, the starting bid will be listed much higher for most of these
yeah,
vehicles.
some of these we could get more for scrap than we were selling them for. Any questions? You good?
Is it just the vehicles? Because there's equipment too, like the,
Everything in this packet, right?
Correct. Everything that is in this packet will be reposted.
All right.
I'll make a motion to reject these bids.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. What will be our next step, though? Do we have a time frame? Because that's like a lot of junk on our end to get rid of, you know?
We do have the appraisal, so they'll be reposted as soon as we meet all the advertising requirements.
So they'll be reposted this week?
Can we repost it that quickly?
I don't know the parameters of the actual online system, but I don't see
Item 13, consider the 2023 to 2024 stone and asphalt bids for Falls Township. This is pretty straightforward, right? This is part of the consortium.
The board is being asked to consider Eureka Stone Quarry Incorporated for both the stone and aggregate bid and the blacktop and binder material. For stone and aggregate, 3/4 inch stone, it is $22 per ton, and for blacktop and binder material, it is $62.93 per ton.
All right, any questions or comments? Mr. Boraski? Mrs. Mullen?
No questions.
No questions. Palmer? All right, and I have none. Is there any public comment needed? Is there a motion?
So be it.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Consider bus quotes for the 2023 Falls Township Summer Camp.
What a night to come, Brian.
Good evening, everyone. That time of the year again, we're looking to go out for bus quotes for our 2023 summer camp. In your packet, you see we received 3 quotes. There is a low quote on there that I would recommend denying. I did check out their safety ratings, and there were some concerns I had there with, you know, brake issues, so forth. Do not want to put our kids in a bus with that company. So my recommendation is to go with the next quote, David Thomas Transportation, who we've used the last two years for camp. They've done a fabulous job, and their safety ratings are top notch. There is one addendum I've been working with Ms. Murley in the solicitor's office to cap a surcharge of 5% on fuel and give us the opportunity to cancel trips 4 weeks in advance. We had that built in last year. You know, with the price of fuel going up, now they're giving us a quote. It could go up a little bit. Good news is we're way under budget, so I think any sort of increase would be minimal. So I recommend going with David Thomas Transportation for $10,628.
Any question? What's that?
Based on Mr. Andrews' recommendation, that would be subject to final approval from the solicitor's office?
Correct.
Any questions, Mr. Boraski?
No, I was kind of curious about that first one as well, Class 1 bus company. Appreciate you looking into that. Just talking about fuel, do you know if David Thomas Transportation, do they use natural gas buses or are they diesel?
I think they're diesel, I believe. I'd have to check into that. But.
I know a lot of first student buses have been converted at this point, so.
Right, yeah, I'm not sure if they've done that conversion or not.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Mullen?
Thanks, Brian. When you suggested that we reject the 9,000, our finance director started waving her hands, and I'll have to think about it. Good job, thank you.
Mr. Palmer?
No questions.
And I have none. Is there any public comment needed? No hands. Is there a motion?
Make the motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Consider agreement between Lexipol and the police department. These guys are gonna, go ahead, Mr. Chief Whitney.
Good evening. I have this item in the next 3. There's no PowerPoint. And they all relate to policies. So Lexipol is an internationally recognized company that deals in risk management, policies, and training for the law enforcement community and the fire service. We budgeted to bring them on board as a partner in updating our policy book and providing a platform that documents training for all of our officers in that policy book. So what's before you is the agreement between the township and Lexipol.
All right. Any questions for Chief Whitney? Mr. Boraski?
No. Laura, did you review the contract with them?
Yes, my office has reviewed it, and I believe it's in final form this evening.
Okay. No questions.
I have none.
Mr. Palmer?
Chief, this is a new direction and a new line item. Do we have the budget for this?
We do, yes. We budgeted for it, intending to bring them on board this year.
Right. Was this a grant opportunity for this or not?
We did not have a grant opportunity for this, although they have a grant writing assistance program, but we didn't find a grant that would be applicable to this.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, I have none. Is there any public comment needed? No hands. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 16, consider policy adoption for use of force for the police department. These are pretty straightforward, right, Ms. Gallagher?
They are, but there are some final details that we're working out. So for these 3 policies, we would recommend that they be approved, subject to final approval from the Solicitor's Office.
All right, we're doing these individually.
Correct.
All right, so any questions or comments, Mr. Boraski?
No.
Ms. Mullen?
Chief, can you just walk through what you use to base these, you authored these policies, correct?
Yes.
What did you use to base them on?
So we had a policy committee back in 2020 that started to make incremental changes, recommended changes to our use of force policy. We used neighboring policies as a template, neighboring agencies that were PLEAC and CALIA accredited, as well as the Bucks County Chiefs of Police Association and the Bucks County District Attorney's Office had a project where they recommended changes to each of the 39 police departments in Bucks County to adopt these recommended changes. They happen to coincide with President Trump's executive order requiring police departments to adopt certain changes. So to make a long story as short as I could, from all of those sources came the use of force policy that's before you.
Thank you. That's it.
Mr. Palmer?
No questions.
I have none. Is there any public comment needed for this one? No hands. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to adopt the use of force for the police department policy
Pending review.
pending review of the solicitor.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 17, consider policy adoption for outside employment for the police department. Want to give this a brief one?
Yeah, this basically came about to update a rather old and very brief policy to give a little bit more substance to it. I did this in consultation with our labor firm, Obermeyer.
Okay. Any questions from board members? Mr. Boraski?
No.
Ms. Mullen?
I have none. I'm happy with it. Thank you.
Mr. Palmer?
No comment.
Do you know how many officers we have that have outside employment?
About half a dozen.
Oh, really? Okay. Any public comment needed? No hands. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance pending review?
So moved.
Motion made.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 18, consider a policy adoption, sorry, I might take them off, for weapons armory and special equipment for the police department. Here's a brief rundown on this one.
So our policy regarding the armory dated back to 2002. There have been a number of changes that have been made operationally since then. And candidly, we just wanted to kind of tighten things down and improve our inventory control process for the weapons that we have. So this mandates more frequent inventories of the weapons that are owned by the township, and it provides for more restricted access to the armory among our workforce.
All right. Any questions from board members? Mr. Palmer, Mr. Boraski?
I'm just going back to all 3 real quick. On the first page of every one of them, it talks about, it just says in this block area, PA accreditation standard. What does that mean?
That is a block that will be identified for policies that have an applicable PLEAC standard to them. Not all the policies in the policy book have a PLEAC standard, which means they have to meet certain criteria from the Pennsylvania Chiefs of Police Association. These policies do have accreditation standards attached to them.
And do we have the accreditation now?
We do not.
We don't. Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Mullen?
No questions.
Mr. Palmer?
No questions.
I have none. Any public comment? No hands. Again, this one will be adopted pending review. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Chief Whitney.
Thank you.
Item 20, appointments to various boards and councils and commissions. Oh, 19, I'm sorry. Escrow release requests. I apologize. We only have one here?
True.
We have one for Lincoln Storage in the amount of $217,901.25, and one for Levittown Car Wash in the amount of $71,318.25. Any questions or comments?
No.
Yes, the Levittown Car Wash, that construction's not done yet. They're still, it's right there next to the high school.
That's correct, Mr. Palmer. The release is for $71,000, and it's a small percentage. It's about a third, so they're drawn down proportionally to the work that's been completed and accepted.
And you're okay, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
Any public comment needed? Again, this isn't township money we're giving away. This is money that's held in escrow from developers. Is there a motion to release these escrows?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 20, appointment to various boards and commissions.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
I'd like
sir.
to make a motion to appoint Paul Hartzell to a alternate position on the planning commission.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Be done by
This is resolution.
By resolution,
Resolution 2023-16.
2023-16. We have to do this again, Ms. Gallagher?
No, the resolution. The resolution number's been noted on the.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Anyone else?
No.
All right. That takes us to item 21. Minutes. Any questions, comments, corrections on the minutes?
None.
None.
All right. Excellent minutes as always, Mrs. Pullen. I wasn't here, but I did actually watch it on TV. Is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. That takes us to the engineer's report. Mr. Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the month of February, you'll see we had 3 new land developments submitted, 1 new earth disturbance submitted, and 3 floodplain permit applications submitted. As usual, the highlights are identified in red. The KA at Fairless Hills, the Wawan Lincoln Highway, I'm told they have plans to open soon, so I imagine they're within 45 days, which is good news.
What were the 2 that were about to open?
The Wawa on Lincoln Highway.
Oh, I thought you said something else.
I apologize, it's known as the KA at Fairless Hills.
Okay.
Correct. Lincoln Storage is nearing completion. They're under a temporary certificate of occupancy. That's been a long-going project, so that's good news. Apologies for LPC Morrisville not being on the engineer's report. I noticed that it wasn't on last month. It is on there now. As you know, that project received preliminary approval and is going to be coming before the Planning Commission next month for consideration of final approval. Morton Salt is nearing construction. The project was approved by the board, and we are in the final stages of developers' agreements. The ambulance project, the PENNSBURY Plaza, Britton Realty, Gilleste, and Fair are all going to be on the Planning Commission tomorrow. I misspoke. The SIV will be in April, but all the other projects identified in red will be before the Planning Commission tomorrow night. In the earth
Hold on,
disturbance.
can you back up for 1 second?
Yes, sir.
SIV will be before the Planning Commission in April.
In April, that's correct.
Thank you.
The middle column with the earth disturbances, I'll say all of those are nearing completion or complete, with the exception of Britton Industries, which is underway, and as you recall, that is the relocation of the main building due to the fire damage. On the third column, earth disturbances, the Padria residence home and McDonald's have both been approved, and the Paulson residence pool remains under construction, or under review, I apologize. And in terms of the township projects, no updates notable except for the fact that Martins Creek and Vermilion Hills, the board approved last month for us to get started. We're collecting preliminary data, reviewing flows and stormwater management considerations and surveying. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have no questions. Any board members? Mr. Boraski?
No.
Ms. Mullen? Mr. Palmer?
No comment.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jones. That takes us to the bill list. Item 23. $2,548,000, $2,548,593.10. Any questions or comments on the bill list?
No questions.
No questions.
Is there a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Can you poll the board, Mr. Boraski?
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Mullen?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
We have a Jones and Associates bill list. Any questions or comments? $365,037.05.
Motion to approve the bill.
Second.
Motion made in second. Can you poll the board?
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Mullen?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Abstain.
And I'm a yes.
Takes us to manager comment. Mr. Takita.
So we did have 2 executive sessions that I need to.
Okay, go ahead.
We did meet the board met an executive session on March 14th to discuss matters of potential litigation and personnel. And the board met in executive session earlier this evening to discuss matters of litigation and personnel.
All right, thank you. Mr. Takita, it's all you.
26 first, or
What's that?
do you want to do item number 26 first? Police Department report?
Yeah, that's fine. My eyes have me going home already, I think.
It's all right, it's a brief report. In the month of February, we handled 1,375 calls for service with 96 accidents and 2 overdoses. We promoted a new detective, Chris Iacono, to fill a vacancy created by retirement. We participated in a recruitment effort at the Bucks County Consortium test on March 18th. We just received the test results today and are proceeding with the hiring process to identify candidates that we can fill vacancies that exist within the police department. We participated in the St. Patrick's Day Parade. And tomorrow, I have another event scheduled with the Lower Bucks County Chamber of Commerce. We've been kind of expanding our community policing footprint into working with the Chamber of Commerce here in the township.
All right. Any questions or comments for Chief Whitney? Mr. Boraski?
No.
Ms. Mullen?
Yes, the consortium test, is that going to be our final one?
You know, I don't think the Chiefs of Police Association has made a decision. We had a pretty good turnout for the consortium test this time around, so I'm hoping they'll run another one in October. Normally do.
That far out?
Yeah, when turnout is pretty good, we normally do one in the spring, one in the fall.
Okay.
But it has not been discussed at meetings yet.
Thanks.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, I have a question about the commercial inspections. Can you elaborate?
Forgot to mention it. Yeah, we have an officer trained in motor vehicle carrier enforcement. We're looking to expand that program to train additional officers, and for the next 3 months, we're kind of expanding our footprint in that realm by holding scheduled inspection details. We're going to have officers assist our trained officer so that they're kind of force multipliers for them, so we can get back out there on Tyburn Road and other roadways in the township that are traveled by commercial vehicles that are subject to commercial vehicle inspection and traffic enforcement.
Now, how does that work? Does your officers just sign up for that, or is it a state inspection, or is it in-house training? How do you become a commercial inspector?
It's training that's performed by the state, so to be certified, you have to be trained to meet different certification requirements and then conduct a set number of inspections, a minimum number every year to maintain your certification. Our details that are coming up internally will be posted over time so that officers can sign up for the detail, and then we'll perform the detail with our trained officer until we get a contingent that are trained, and then we can kind of expand further.
Excellent, thank you.
So, just real quick, is that all right?
Yeah.
This is one of those issues that, as a board, we get firsthand. I mean,
Sure,
just tonight alone, we had 2 items, and they talk about truck traffic. We've talked for months about the trucks, rerouting them through Morrisville, and keep them in Falls Township and put them on the Route 1, Route 13. So, as a board, this has been something that we've been talking about for months since that lady stood there, lives in my neighborhood, and talked about how bad it is. So.
Absolutely,
You know, I
we hear you.
appreciate-
We hear you, and I appreciate
Yeah.
your support in this.
So, you know, I like, you know, that we're gonna start with some 4-hour details, right? But obviously, we, you know, as a board, we need more, you know what I mean? And as a township, I think, and as manager's office and the police department, and the board of supervisors, you know, we're fully committed to making sure that, you know, it's a program that we see through and we're committed to, and it turns into a full-time, you know, shift of days and nights or whatever it needs to be, you know, to keep it under control. Because I think once word is out that we're there, I think it helps, you know what I mean? It's obviously the truck traffic we're not going to avoid, but it's the bad trucks, you know what I mean?
Right.
And the stuff that's not covered and whatever else is happening. But so I just want to make sure you understand, you know, as a board of supervisors, we're committed to, you know, the resources that you need to make sure this happens.
Definitely, and the program that we spec'd out for the next few months will be making sure we're hitting the right locations at the right time. Do we have enough personnel assigned that'll give us some data that we can map out what it looks like for the next 3-month period after that? And I've had some success in contacting the owners of some of these companies, particularly when their trucks are traveling down residential areas, when they could easily jump on 13 to take it to Tyburn Road. And I've had some success with getting cooperation that way, so I'll continue to try that as well.
Okay.
I wasn't sure. I did hear some talk that it was a state discretionary of who becomes a commercial driver or a commercial inspector. So I wasn't sure if it was our chief that dictates that or it's the state. I think you clarified that you can put the manpower out there.
Yeah, I don't have to wait to train additional officers. I can have officers assist our trained officer. In other words, he can do the inspections and pass on writing the citations to other officers, so he can then move on to the next truck. I'd prefer to have additional officers trained, as we've had in the past. We've had some officers that were trained that retired. We've had some let their certifications lapse. But we'll get additional people trained. The hard part at times is getting the training, getting the seats in the classes, because they fill pretty quick.
Anything we can do to help you, just let us know.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Chief Whitney. I think it's the manager comment. Now it's your turn.
2 items. The police department will be hosting both a shredder event and a National Prescription Drug Take Back Day on April 22nd. Additional information is posted on the township website and social media, and residents are encouraged to take advantage of this. If they have any other questions, they can contact the police department.
Thank you, Mr. Takita. This is board comment, Mr. Boraski.
Sure, just to piggyback real quick with Mr. Takita, these events are great for the township. Today I spoke with Mr. Takita and Mr. DiPolito about possibly holding another e-recycling event. A resident had reached out and asked if the township could do something again. I'm sure like many, they're probably looking to get rid of some things. So the township is in the process of putting that on a schedule, maybe hopefully this year if we can. But for anyone that's curious or anyone that might be watching, we're have something in the works. That's all I have.
Ms. Mullen?
No comment.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, I've been getting a lot of emails and conversations from residents. We're going to work on state, county, anywhere in Falls Township that anybody has any concerns on litter or traffic conditions, please report them to Falls Township, and we will do our best to get it addressed. I don't care if it's Route 13. I don't care if it's a superhighway. If it's Falls Township, we will address it. Doesn't mean we're going to be able to do anything hands-on wise, but we're going to reach out to all county officials and make it our business to take care of this township. So please don't hesitate to reach out with any potholes or rubbish. That's all.
Thank you. And thank you for an excellent minute tonight from my board members and professionals. And with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.